Welcome to the Aligned Soul Entertainment Podcast, where you get to be human and quantum leap. I'm your host and transformational mentor, Christine Michelle. Let's talk manifestation, magic, and all things entertaining, because life was meant to be fun. So let's go have some. This podcast is brought to you by the Aligned Soul Society. Yes, the Aligned Soul Society is the premier manifesting membership that you get to get involved in. It is where you get to learn how to manifest with ease using energetics, human design, and you get to align with who you truly are and welcome yourself back home. The Aligned Soul Society is where quantum leaps become normal. And because you are listening to this podcast, you get to get in even when the doors are closed. So if you want to learn more about the Aligned Soul Society, check out the show note links and let's get to the show. Hello. It is Christine Michelle here with another episode of the Aligned Soul Podcast. And I am here with a very special guest who's near and dear to my heart. She is my soul sister. And I just love her. I love her teachings. I love her community. And you guys are going to love it. It is so fun. So I am introducing to you Stephanie Bellinger. That's right. The creator of the Spiritual Boss Babe personal development brand. She has a booming community. And when I say booming online community, I mean 30,000 crazy raving fans that love and adore her. She's got an amazing podcast that's serving tens and tens of thousands, spiritual, entrepreneurial women around the world. So Stephanie is a mindset and transformational coach, and she helps healers, coaches, and visionaries quantum leap into their next level of purpose, impact, and abundance. She is really helping women connect to their next level mindset. She's helping them unlock their magic. She's helping them become more abundant than they've ever dreamed possible. And I am so happy to have Stephanie on this broadcast.
Oh my God, I am so excited to be here. And my God, what an intro. Damn, you really spiced that up like to the max. I'm like, who is this person? Who's Stephanie Howard? It's like, thank you. That was awesome.
Well,
you got me excited.
You're like, I want to know her. You are her. No. Well, one thing we've been talking lately on the podcast, we've been really folding in elements of human design, gene keys, all of those amazing things. So just so you guys know a little bit about Stephanie, she is a pure generator. She is a 6'2" generator, which means she is a teacher to her core. And she has some really interesting defined centers, which include her G center, which is all about self-love and identity and purpose, and it's the manifesting center. The throat is like the speaking, the manifestation, but that G center is really connected to the quantum, which makes sense. Both of us have that. Of course, since she's a generator, she has a defined sacral, and that sacral is her authority. She also has a defined spleen, which is really that instinct area. And that is also where like you'll see healing and rituals. And that is why that's a big part of what she does. And we're going to let her explain what she does with a lot of her retreats and things like that. And then she also has that defined root area, which means that Stephanie may be somebody that really like go, pushes herself to get things done, because that defined root area is really in charge of like the adrenals, and that area really makes you like put pressure on yourself to get stuff done. So I'm so excited to just enjoy this podcast, talk about all of the quantum stuff. So to begin, Stephanie, tell everyone more about you and what you do.
Sure. I love like your description of all this. I'm like nerding out on the human design stuff now, way more. So what I do right now is I'm really just helping women from all around the world step into their purpose with power and create a life and business that sets their soul on fire. I do a lot of mindset work. I basically help them blend the energetics, the mind shifts, and the aligned action to really bring things to life. And of course, tap into their quantum multidimensional magic through connecting to that higher vision, to connecting to that reality that they truly want and embodying that in the now. And so I have a lot of ways that I do this through the tools that I share. And I've just committed to helping as many people as I possibly can, like live out their best freaking lives. And that includes doing what they love. And I personally love helping spiritual entrepreneurial women because together we can raise the vibration of the planet. And, it's just like this collective mission that I feel we're on. And so once I started my community, I'm like, I'm going to call in all the people who get what I'm talking about. And I did. And it turns out there's a lot of us. And it's been pretty awesome because we need that support also to rise up into what we're creating, not just in our own lives, but with the impact we're here to make. It's so easy to go into those imposter syndrome feelings or doubt or whatever. And having that soul sister community of other women who are, doing amazing things is so inspiring. I know I've gotten so inspired by many people and other Facebook groups before I started my own. And so, yeah.
That is
Just
so
shining.
awesome. I mean, when did you start? Because when you look at like what you have created over the last few years and the growth that you have created, and I feel like it's the epitome of what a quantum leap can be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're such a great teacher of like showing up and being that person. And I just would love for you to speak more about like where you came from and like how you started this spiritual boss babe brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't start overnight, but when it like grew, it started growing really fast. So I've done a lot of things on my entrepreneurial journey. I've been an entrepreneur since like birth, but it was around the time when I was a personal trainer and had a fitness business when I was living in New York City. And once I started personal training and helping people in that way, because before that I did stuff with my art, like makeup and bras and weird different stuff. But that's like, it'll get so long if I start going back there. But once I started helping people with fitness, I was like, okay, I'm definitely on the right path. I'm meant to help people in a big way. And this is what I'm doing. And fitness was like a huge part of who I am. It was my first taste of personal development. Around the time I got into fitness, also got into meditation as a teenager, and that helped me leave an abusive relationship. And so once I got into fitness, I realized I was on the path, but that also led me into personal development and learning how to build a business online, because I knew from a long time that I didn't want to work for anyone else. I didn't want to, I just wanted more freedom. And so I started learning how to build a business online and did like a network marketing thing having to do with health and fitness back then. And I reached this point after all of this growth that I was doing with EMDR therapy and EFT tapping and hypnosis and plant medicine. I realized, oh shit, like I have a lot of stuff to work on and like move out of the way in order for me to step into this. Cause I felt like even when I was doing my personal training, I still had so many like thoughts of not being smart enough, not being good enough, and just not feeling confident enough. And I knew that it was bullshit, but it was like really getting in the way. And once I did all of that, as I was doing all of that growth, it's not like, oh, once I did it, then I was just totally fine. But once I like started like really going in the rabbit hole and then getting into plant medicine, like psychedelics for healing and expansion, I started feeling pulled to want to help people in an even deeper way. And I didn't know what it looked like or what it meant. And it was really hard for me to like give up fitness. And I say that with air quotes because I don't really give it up. It's for me now, but it wasn't not my business anymore. So it was a while for that shift to happen. But I like for a while I was trying to trying to combine fitness with mindset and like manifestation. That's stuff I always talked about anyway. And like still inspiring people to follow their dreams and like live out their purpose. And I was trying to combine it all. And eventually I just was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to like go into this direction and talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. So I had the inspiration to start my group back in 2016, spring of 2016. And I started helping people step into their power. And I launched like this free 15 days of personal power like series in my group. And I was teaching people about subconscious mind and how to shift your beliefs and how to build confidence and all that stuff. And then I launched a little program around it. And I was like, oh, wow, I think I could do this. But I was still really scared. It's so funny. Like it took about, after that, I didn't really like sell anything for a good 6 to 8 months. Like I was really building a lot of value and I was nervous to share anything. The first year was really slow. And then I moved to Tampa for a relationship in the midst of all of that. That didn't work out quickly. And then I was like, why am I here? I know you live in Tampa, right? I was not a fan of Tampa. I'm not like gonna lie, but it's only because, well, I'm not gonna get into there. But when I was living in Tampa, I was like, well, what the fuck? Like I just made a huge detour, you know, now I'm in this place that I don't like. And I moved here for someone that I'm like, not really whatever. But once I ended that relationship, I was still sharing, you know, my message and building my community and making free little freebies. And I launched another little program in the spring of 2017. And I just remember, because I was bartending and teaching fitness classes at that time. It's a long story because I experienced like major success with my fitness business and then like had to get a job again, this whole thing. So when I was in Tampa, I was bartending and teaching fitness classes. And I just remember I launched this program called Everyday Magic. And that's going to be the title of my book too. But I just remember like seeing the payment notifications come in on PayPal while I was like sitting at a freaking empty bar during the day, bored out of my mind. And I was like, oh my God, I'm making so much money right now and I'm not doing anything. And I just am sitting here watching these payments come in. And it wasn't like a ginormous amount, but to me it was at that time. I was like, holy shit, like people are buying my program. Like this is awesome. It was, you know, a few $1,000s, like $2,000-3,000 or something. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And, things started happening really fast after that. That was when I started building more confidence too in getting my people amazing results. And I literally went from like sleeping on an air mattress and having a shitty car and like working 2 side jobs to, you know, leaving my jobs, getting a new car and making my first $10,000 month within like by the fall of by August, September-ish, around that time of 2017. And then my community went from like 2,000 people, literally there was 2,000 people in like July of that year to by October there was 10,000. And then by January there was 20,000. Like it grew so fast. I was like, what the hell is going on? This is awesome. But that whole first year or so, it was like really like turtle. So sorry, that was like so long, but
no, it's okay. Like you made so many good points in when you were talking about your journey. And I was looking at your chart while you were talking, and it was just so interesting because your big thing was, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. And you probably felt like you had to prove yourself a lot. Mm-hmm. And because there's this will center, and it's like, they call it the heart, but it's called the will center, and yours is open. It is an undefined center. So that means that it's an area that all of your undefined centers are areas that you can decondition, right? Through your mindset work, through really tuning in and grounding in the energy of where your power is, which is your defined centers. And so with the will center, when that's undefined, or if it's unhealthy and defined, you really go into like, am I enough? Am I worthy? Like, even though you created this massive success with your other business, you started to second guess yourself because you weren't really solidified in that knowing of your enoughness. Mm. And that it makes sense just because you do have that open area. And surprise, guys, 70% of the world have an open will, which is why not enough and different things are all things that we really struggle with at times. So like for me, I have a defined will, but if you have a defined will and you still have some conditioning in there and you're operating at that lower frequency, you can really tune into not believing that you're enough and not believing that your work is equal to, or feeling like you have to really push forth and prove yourself. And so a way to really tune into your power is knowing that you don't have to prove yourself, knowing that you're enough just because you're here, and really that toning into that you're worthy just because. And that's a beautiful thing that you did. So awesome. But you also, another thing I want to point out when you were talking about your business. So you said it was kind of like, ho hum for a little bit. And then you created this program, which was Everyday Magic. So tell us, how did that come to you? Like, how did you get inspired to create this Everyday Magic program?
It's so funny because I never launched it again after that. Because it was my first one. And obviously it was great. Like everyone got amazing results, but I was definitely still kind of a perfectionist at that time. And I shifted more into teaching about business. This is so interesting. But that program was an up level of the Personal Power Project, which was my first one. And that I did the year before, except I added more woo and spiritual, like magic stuff in it, and ritual, and it was basically like helping with healing and manifestation at the same time. And so after, like, it just came to me. It was already there. It's been there. It's still what I teach. It's just now it's even more refined, and I just call it different things, and I still teach it in different ways, but it's still the same principles for the most part. And so it came, and I was like, I gotta just do this. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I made like a bazillion and one slides and did it all on audio and all on my phone on this app. It was like ridiculous, but it was good. And I spent forever on the workbook. And then I started teaching more about manifestation, and because I started like really just like committing to what I already knew would work in my soul. And I did it. Like, I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to manifest $10,000 next month. And I thought, okay, this sounds like a stretch for me at that time. Cause like I was, felt like I was stuck for a while, but I was like, I'm just going to act like it already is. And if it happens, awesome. And if it doesn't, whatever, but I'm going to just like try these different things that I truly believe will work. And some of these things were just changing the way I spoke to money, gratitude every time I spend and receive. And I did like the ritual, like with a candle and oil and cinnamon and all this stuff. And I did that for like a month, like these different little practices. And I freaking made $10,000 the next month, but it wasn't just from my business. It was from my business, from my pendants, from a couple personal training clients, from my side jobs. Like it was from all over the place, but it was like $10,000 a month. And I was like, holy shit, like I really did that. And then, so I made this program, this little masterclass called Aligned AF. And I was like, I'm going to teach you what I did. And so it was like this little, I don't know, $100 thing. And like, I started selling that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really cool. And so I then, for whatever reason, shifted into, I'm going to teach people how to grow their Facebook or how to grow their community. And how to grow their spiritual business. And so, because like, that's what I was doing. And I've been on the entrepreneurial journey forever. And I freaking spent years and years learning about courses and marketing for a long time. So I knew enough to help people. And so I launched that, and then I got more into the business side of things, but it started to not feel aligned as much because I got too into the strategy of things and not as much into the magic of things. At first, my program was called Biz Magic, and then it was Spiritual Biz Babe Academy, and then it turned into Spiritual Boss Babe Academy. I brought back in the magic of it, but I started to get a little bit out of alignment, and in my head, things were growing, but then they seemed to come to a halt again. And I still had those things come back in where I was like, oh man, like I'm not where so-and-so is. And I'm not there yet. And like, even though I left my jobs, I was making good money, I still had those like freaking thoughts of like, I should be so much further along by now. And it was crazy. And obviously I was working with, I hired a coach. I spent like 20 grand on my second coach, and I paid her in full. And I was about to shit myself because I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I probably annoyed the shit out of her too, because I was really, really like I was going through it, and she was more so helping me with the energetics and the mindset of it. And I wanted strategy at that point, but I was so going through it that I needed what she was helping me with. And I didn't really realize that until later on, like during our time together, even though I loved working with her, but I just thought like I wanted that secret thing for a while. And this is why I'm so adamant now about telling people there's no freaking secret thing. You are the secret sauce. So those are some lessons I learned during that time.
Oh my goodness. 100%. Like you said, there's no one way. If you talk to 7 millionaires, there's 7 different ways they got there. And you and I both know it's 90%, 99% energy, and it's 10%, 1% strategy, right? Like it's just so important for you to be energetically aligned. Mm-hmm. And you said some beautiful things there. You said you were like, screw it. Fuck it. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, which was you getting into the manifestation and getting into the spiritual stuff and really wooing it up. Right. Mm-hmm. And then there was a little point where you kind of not lost your way, but you were like feeling it out and saying, well, these business stuff, I know that this is what I'm doing. And then in our industry, that's all you see everywhere, right? Business coaches, people pay more money to business coaches. That's what people say, which isn't true. And so then you're like, well, this doesn't feel right. So you tune back in to your body and to your soul. And we're like, well, what do I truly want to do? And then that's when you got back on track. So I love that story. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Goodness. Well, when you were talking about, I know you really teach a lot about magnetic manifestation. And so I really love the story of like how you said you had the group and it was like at a certain point, but then it's like you magnetized that audience to you. You magnetized the things that you desired into your life because you were showing up as the person. So I'd love to hear more about like what magnetic manifestation means to you.
To me, it means when you're like in alignment with your soul, and when you're like really just doing what lights you up and showing up from a place of excitement when it comes to your business. But magnetic manifestation happens when you are present in the moment and aligned with who you truly are. That's really all it is. And also obviously the practice of like letting go. And for me with the group, I kind of like was at this point, honestly, before, like right before, around that time, before I started, everything started happening. I was already at that, well, what's the worst that can happen? Had a shitty car. I was sleeping on an air mattress. And obviously I know there's people who have it way worse than I did. But for me, I was just like, I have nothing to lose. So I'm just going to freaking do what lights me up. I'm going to show up every day, and I'm going to because I love showing up. I still do. I love showing up, and I just love talking about whatever the hell I freaking feel like talking about. And that's it. And when I was getting in my head of, oh, I got to talk about this, or I need to structure things like this, or maybe I should like do it this way. Whenever I would get in that, it would kick me right out of flow. And so I forget what your question was.
No, you're doing perfect. We were talking about magnetic manifestation.
Oh, magnetic. Yeah.
You're showing up and doing what you loved, which made you magnetic.
Yes. And yeah, I was making my pendants a lot more. I make crystal pendants. I need to start making them again because I do love like having getting my creative juices flowing in that kind of way. So I was making my pendants. I was sharing them all over, and people became to know me as like the crystal chick. And I was just giving value. And I just I knew that my community was going to grow. I already knew it was going to be tens of thousands of people before it was. And I just, it's like I decided that it would be, and I didn't really give a shit how it would happen or how long it would take or any of that. I was just like, my friend gave me this really good analogy the other day. It was like, if you chase something or if you force something, it's especially when it comes to like money per se, it's like you're in a garden, like trying to catch butterflies with a net. But if you just focus on building an amazing garden and tending to that garden and like watering the plants and just making it so beautiful, all the butterflies will want to come anyway. And so when it came to my community, that's what I did without even realizing. I was just creating a beautiful garden and giving so much value and shining my light and sharing my gifts and creating things that I loved, but also that I knew would help people, the people that I wanted to help. And I was making the space for them and creating that most awesome Facebook group for spiritual entrepreneurs. And I would say that often. I would talk about how amazing my group was when there was like, 1,000 people in it. And people started telling people. And then I just kind of went into this like automatic Facebook algorithm magic. And people just started finding out about it. I don't know, man. But I did things. Obviously I did things. I teach people how to grow their community, but
Right.
I teach a lot of the energy stuff too.
Right.
Me.
And you and I both know, like, you showed up as next level Stephanie. Like, you showed up in that community as if you were teaching or talking to 30,000 people. So they
Yeah.
couldn't help but show up, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the way you stepped into it. You're like, this is the best group ever. This, one of my
Mm-hmm.
programs is the best ever. And you really showed up in that energy as your next level you, the way I like to call it. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why it couldn't help but unfold, which is so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, well, let's talk about, you have you focus on quantum leaps, right? And like you said, you manifested like amazing things in your fitness business, but then it didn't sustain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you have really gotten to the point where you were able to sustain it. And it had a lot to do with you healing and using a lot of the tools like NLP, which I absolutely love, hypnosis, and EFT, which is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. You knew, both you and I always talk about how you don't have to be perfect to manifest. And
Mm-hmm.
this is important for everyone to remember, that you don't have to go through every little limiting belief and everything you got
Mm-hmm.
going on. But when you have things blocking your brain, it's important for you to really understand like what self-sabotage stuff you've got going on. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to hear more about that.
More about my take on that,
Yeah, your
or
take on like limiting beliefs, or what helped you, like what was the difference between when you rose and then fell, and how now you've been able to sustain your growth and where you are.
that's such a good question. So first off, I'm not like perfect, and I still have moments where I doubt myself, or I still have moments where I'll feel some like funky thing come up. But what's different now is I don't take it on as my truth, and I don't like sit in it. And it's that's my responsibility to look at that if I need to either look at it and go to my tools so that I could shift it, or to realize that it's a freaking pattern and I already worked through it and I don't need to fucking like give it any attention. There's a big difference. And I think that it's an individual thing to realize that, because I personally believe that yes, we need to look at certain things and ask questions or go to your tools or use some EFT tapping or whatever. But if it's something that is like, a pattern that you feel like you've already worked on, and it's just like this literally like something that's like coming up from reptilian brain just because, then you need to know like what that difference is. And I think that, like I said, it's a very individual thing. For me, it's just having that greater self-awareness to understand that it's just a pattern, and it's not, you don't even need to listen to it or give it any attention. But as you're on this journey and you're working through things, that gets easier. So having the tools to go to, having the support, like I always am investing in myself. I'm always like committed to growing and committed to knowing what gets me in flow. So if I feel myself going into like a funky energy or like things are coming up more, it's usually because I'm not taking the best care of myself or I'm slacking in some area. Maybe I didn't get my workout in that day, or, maybe I've gone like too long without, I don't know, listening to some motivational videos or something, because those are things that really get me in flow. I like listening to an audio or watching a video almost every single day. Like when I start my day, when I'm working out, I love like working out in the morning or dancing. And if I don't do that for like a few days or something, I'll start to feel a shift in my energy and my mindset. And so those are my tools and those are things that get me into flow. And so it's my responsibility for my results I get in my life. So I need to understand what gets me personally in flow and do those things. And also, you don't need to like have this like meticulous morning ritual and it's like this perfect little thing every day, but like at least some things or one thing, something that gets you in flow and shifts your energy and like makes you feel good.
Yes, 100%. Because like you said, those things that you're doing is one, putting you in the present moment. And then
Mm-hmm.
two, it's elevating your energy, elevating your frequency to really feeling good, feeling your best, throughout the day. And what I love to tell my audience and is I always start off, because a lot of the people that come to me, like they've been doing this and that and this and that, and they've never like really sat and focused and done like one or two things and like created some kind of momentum. Like they don't know, because they'll try this and try that. And so I'm like, really like try something for an extended period of time, something that feels good for you so that you can build some momentum and really lock in that energetic frequency that you're want to tune into.
Mm-hmm.
And so like for you, you are a non-specific manifestor, which is super interesting. But there are specific manifestors and then non-specific manifestors. And so with specific manifestors, it lights them up to look at all of the specific details, like the hows, the whens. Not that the how is up to the universe 100%, it's up to sugar daddy, but they look at the real minute details of whatever they desire, and they can really tune into that. And it's interesting when you think about non-specific manifestors like you and I, we're on the newer side, right? When law of attraction was created, the specific manifestors were really the ones creating all the tools and the vision boards and all of the things and telling people, get into the details. And then I get all of these people coming to me like, this doesn't work, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, it might be because it's not tuning into the way your energy works. And so like for us, it really does help to tune into the essence of what you desire, like the essence of like how it feels and that feeling of it. And like I like to say, like looking at themes or like 3 feelings that all align with like the 10,000 month and the amazing sexual and the great relationship and the hot man, like all of that, like what's the essence of that for you? And then really like tuning into that. And then that could be, waking up and dancing and then speaking in front of your mirror and saying your next level, like your identity, stating who you are, enjoying that feeling or whatever, but really tuning into that frequency. And I really find, especially I'm sure with you having such a huge community, that a lot of people, they're hearing so many things from all the different places that they just have no clue how to create what you did, like what works for them. And it really starts with trying something consistently to see, does this light me up? Is it
Exactly
expanding me, or am I feeling constricted and feeling like, like balled up and feeling resistance, and then going with what lights them up?
Yeah, I've had people like that wanted to grow Facebook groups before also. And then they realized that that's actually not what they wanted to do. And so I think it's really important to really honor what, like, first off, think about why you want something and want it for or desire it. I like the word desire better.
Yes.
For the right reasons, that are meaningful to you. Because I've had people that say, oh, I want to make a Facebook group. They do it. Then they either fall off because it's not freaking lighting them up, or, they decide actually I like Instagram better. And that's totally fine, because this is a very individual thing. I don't like to teach or share any cookie cutter shit. And like the way that I break everything down is like tuning into what it is that you desire. And really, ultimately, I think the core of what we both do basically is helping people remember who the F they are, and like align with their truth, like soul aligned, right? Or the aligned soul.
Yes.
Like that's the key. And it's not the same for everyone.
Right. That's so true. Because like you said, it's an individual thing, and no one needs us, but we have been placed on this earth to help remind them about who they are, help remind them about what they already know, and then help them like just be aware, like we're speaking directly, like even in this podcast right now, those of you who are listening, we're speaking directly to your soul. And then you might re-listen to this and then have an aha activation moment where you're like, oh, I get it, right? And that's it activated in you. But you're getting it now because we're speaking the truth directly to your soul. And that's what I love about what we do, because it's not like you have to work with us in order to know this. No, this is stuff that you already know in your soul. And the funny thing, like when you look at human design, they talk about a lot of conditioning, because like you said, this girl thought she needed a Facebook group, but that wasn't even what she wanted. And sometimes we don't even know our true heart's desire, our true soul desire, because we've been conditioned to think you have to have this, or you must do this by parents or people that raised us, or when we were in school. And so it's so interesting for you, like, I feel like when you look at how you manifest and you look at like how the energy works in your body, if you really tune into your heart and you say, why do I want this? And when you can't really come up with a reason that feels like true for you, then that's probably not a soul's desire flowing in from you. Because I'm always saying trust your desires, because they're coming from soul and because they're divine. But when you're like, well, I want that group because everybody told me you need the group.
Or they think that that's the way that they're going to make the 10K a month, but it's really, maybe it's coming from a different vehicle that you feel more aligned with.
Exactly. It's them trying to create the how. Right? Instead of leaning back. So for example, you are a generator, and it is really all about really like asking, soul for what you desire. So saying, I would love, whatever you're desiring. Let's say your next program, which you got to tell us all about. Say, I would desire this to be, my largest program yet. And, blah, blah, blah. And so you ask that to the universe, and then it's kind of like a game of ping pong. So you ask and you keep your eyes open, because as a generator, you have this huge, amazing open aura, and you get things like dropped along your path. And so you can be inspired to respond to things like from television, or from something you're listening to on the radio, or from just seeing someone down the street, or people in your group, which you have a large group of people to talk to and create things in response. And it really is just you being open to all that is dropping along your path. And then once you start to get in the flow of recognizing all of the gifts that the universe is giving, then you really tune into the ease of it. And you see, and you're just a generator. You see that that's what the generators, when they're a sacral generators, when that sacral authority, that's the way your intuition speaks to you, which is in that sacral, which is below your belly button, kind of around your reproductive organ area. And it's a response of a or it's a right? So like when you feel yourself feeling like, hell yeah, really excited, like, that's when you know that this is something that I get to move forward with. And you can just continue to just, ping pong with all of the things that your soul is telling you that this is your next step. And then you can really talk to your audience and get those things to respond to. So what do you have going on right now?
Right now, like program wise?
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of new things in the works. Right now, I have my expansion mastermind where I get to do this deep work with a small curated group of people in a more personalized way. So I'm really excited about that because it has like, it really lights me up going deep with people and like offering that one-on-one component and the actual live event that we have so we could do some of this work live in person. I do a night where we go out as our next level self and we get into character and like it's funny. Like I'll have them share like what's going on in their life, like all this stuff and like stay in character the whole night. It's so fun. But that my mastermind is like the main thing that I have going on right now. But I'm working on creating a program. I have my Abundance Activation Academy. That's like the foundation of learning mostly about like the subconscious mind and how the subconscious mind works and using NLP and hypnosis and EFT for activating abundance. But what I'm creating now, or what I'm really feeling the with for a long time that is in the works, is going deeper with the quantum and like going more into the energy side of that and how to apply it to all areas of your life, not just abundance, and like really going into the multi-dimensional aspect of it and like the witchy woo stuff that I love. So I'm really, really excited about that.
I love that. Well, I'm all witchy woo. That's what we do here.
Yeah.
So when you think about, like you said, the quantum is like where you're feeling your heart pulled. And this is like super like exciting for you. So when you have like a client or someone that comes to you and says, I'm really, desiring to understand more about the quantum, but I want to get this something fast or whatever. Let's say that that's what their intention is. Like, how do you approach it with them just to help them, one, understand that everything's available to them now and it really isn't about timing?
Like if someone wants to manifest something really fast.
Yeah.
Well, I really have them focus on being that, like the be, do, have model, like being that version of themselves. But of course, it's so important to point this out. This doesn't mean that you don't look at shit that comes up. It doesn't mean that you ignore things, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But I help them like really begin to embody that version of themselves in the now, and remind them that as we do that, as we live by that, that's when things change. That's when matter changes. That's when reality changes, because as you are being, your beliefs change, your habits change, your actions change. When you are being that confident version of yourself, you do different actions. You want to show up on a live. You want to do the things. When you are being your most abundant self, you feel better. You feel like, just freaking awesome. And so you see things differently. You start to see gratitude, or you start to see synchronicities, or you start to see signs. And at the same time, you can clear things out as they come up. Just as you gave that great analogy when you were on my podcast that I've been totally using about like clearing the rocks from the path, clearing the boulders from the path. And like, as you come across them.
Yes.
So I know everyone wants to manifest things fast, and things truly can happen fast. There's no rule for how long or how fast. When I pulled this card earlier today, when I did a live, I pulled the serendipity card from my Wisdom of the Oracle deck. I'm trying to get it. But anyway, I pulled the serendipity card, and it's funny because it goes along with this question. I pulled it and it was reversed. And what that means is that, because my whole video today was around what to do when you feel like you're forcing things, but it can be easier, and how to like shift that. And so the serendipity card in reverse is saying that, there are signs and synchronicities. Magic is still happening all around you, but sometimes we need to learn a really powerful lesson right before we hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
And so to not give up or not let the time frame deter you, or not base things on your current circumstances, because you are not your circumstances, but to extract those lessons of gold and know that they are ultimately helping you hit the jackpot, but to stay aligned with your vision regardless. Doesn't matter when, because it already is. You know, if you knew you had a freaking check coming to you that was coming in the mail next week for 30 grand, would you fucking wait till next week to be happy and celebrate it?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So like we can celebrate now, we can embody it now, we can feel good now, and choose faith and choose to believe in what we are creating, because fear and faith have one thing in common anyway. Some of you may have heard the quote, I don't remember who it's from, but fear and faith have one thing in common. They both require us to believe in something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And we always have a choice. You know, we can give the power to the fear, or we can give fuel to the faith. And so what do you choose?
I love that. That was so good. Everyone that's listening, rewind it back like 5 minutes.
I was in flow.
Right. Re-listen to that, because that was just a beautiful, beautiful explanation of like how you step into what you desire. Right. And it's really about being and not about the time and everything, because time is a construct, right? It doesn't mean anything. Everything is available to you now. And if you know, like you said, if you knew everything you desired was available to you right now and on its way, like flowing in, then you would be happy. You would choose it. And another thing, when we talked about that analogy, those things come up. Like, that's why I say first focus on being her, so that when you're shifting and you're really tuning into being her, then the things that don't align with that pop up.
Yeah, they fall away, including people.
Right. They're like, this doesn't align with that. This isn't equal to who you're being. And it really is just information. Like all of that stuff that pops up is just guidance. And it just says, hey, there's the little boulder or the big boulder or whatever that you now get to look at, love, and then, you know, choose how you decide to move forward, choose what you're going to like move forward and believe in that moment. And that was such a beautiful way. I feel like, okay, well, we're going to have to end on that because that was so good. But I have a question, because the podcast is really like, I call it Aligned Soul Entertainment. And it really is about like being beautifully human while being spiritual. And a lot of times people feel like, oh, if I'm so spiritual, I can't watch TV, or I can't listen to that type of music, or I can't, you know, booty shake. I can't, you know, do these certain things, right? Because they try to cut off their mind, or they try to cut off their bodies. And I'm all about like transformation, mind, body, and soul. And so the question that I'm asking everyone that comes on the podcast is, what is your favorite pleasure? A lot of people would call it guilty pleasure, but we don't believe in guilt here. So it's all about, what is your favorite pleasure?
What is my favorite pleasure? That's a tough question.
I'll give you an example. So for me, like I love, we were just talking on another podcast interview. I love like kicking back, drinking a glass of wine, and like watching The Bachelor with my sister or something like that, and getting a ton of content from it, because it's hilarious, because I can choose like how I'm watching it and really like see the energetics behind it. So I love watching anything and looking at the energetics behind it, right? Any kind of show. Or so my pleasure is like kind of like pop culture or entertainment, and really like tuning it into and getting a spiritual message from it, and using that to help people truly get it, because they've watched it, they've understood it, they've seen it, and now they're like, oh, that'll make me understand like how this energetic frequency and all of this stuff works or interacts. And so people would call it a guilty pleasure. We don't believe in guilt here because they'll say, oh, it's trash TV, or, oh, spiritual people aren't supposed to do this. They're not supposed to drink, or they're not supposed to do all those things. And it's like, no, I really tune into the pleasures of like the body, the mind, and the soul. And so what would be something that your body loves? I know you love music and you love dancing.
I love music. I love dancing. I love kicking back and drinking a glass of wine here and there. I really love like, so I used to do these lip sync videos. It's so random, but I love like getting into my gangster stuff character.
Oh
like,
yeah.
when I'm at the gym or like when I'm dancing or when I'm working out. And I call her gangster stuff because it's like an alter ego. And it's like that part of me that like comes out when I just feel so badass and I don't give a fuck. And it seems like really like rude or like hard or bitchy or whatever, but also like super cool.
Right.
So I like just being really silly and tapping into that side of me that's like, you know, dropping the F-bombs, like being like whatever and, you know, being real. I don't know if that's like a guilty pleasure or what, but yeah.
No, I think that I love the lip sync video. I love that. The lip sync videos at the gym, listening to your hip hop or your gangster and being like, I'm gangster Stephanie.
Oh my God,
enjoying myself right now.
I feel so badass.
Someone else would say, spiritual people aren't supposed to listen to that. And you're like, screw you.
Oh my God. I'm listening to like freaking old school, like DMX and Eminem and like the lyrics. Sometimes when I hear the lyrics, I'm like, I don't know if this is really, but whatever. I feel awesome.
I know. You know, it's about the feeling, and it really is about the lens that you're listening to and looking at it with, right? So like you're listening to it for, I like to say I'm looking at this or looking at it for entertainment. And then I'm also, because I have the teacher hat, looking at it like, wow, well, how could I use some of this to teach, right? And so you're listening to that because you're enjoying the beat, because I listen to some things that probably people will be like, what the hell? But it's about the beat, and it's about moving, and it's about feeling, and it's just about really like tuning in. Now, if there are some things that I will like be like, oh, that is not feeling right for my soul, then I'm not doing it because that doesn't feel good, right? So if I'm listening to something, I'm like, ooh, I will turn it off, because that means that no, like I cannot look at that a different way. As much as I try, I can't, you know, or it just means that maybe I'm not in the right place for me. And like my energy isn't in the place where I can just look at things like non-judgment and put like a stamp or a meaning towards it. And so that's why I'm like, oh, I'll choose and pick. But if you are loving it, enjoying yourself, getting your dance on, I say that's what you're meant to be, to have fun. Oh my God. Okay. So on that note, tell everyone where they can find you. I know we talked a little bit about it, but I want to make sure we tell them where they can find you.
Yes. Well, I'm on Instagram at The Spiritual Boss Babe. And there's my Facebook group, Spiritual Boss Babes. I got my podcast, but really, if you just go to spiritualbossbabe.com, everything's there too. So super easy. My Facebook group, my Insta, my podcast, all the things.
Oh, and what I'm going to do is have links to your Instagram, your website, your group, and your podcast in the show notes, so that everybody can just click away and get straight to you. When I tell you the group is an amazing group, I'm a part of it. I love it. And Steph, she shows up every Monday, drops her science and her Monday magic, and it's usually very, very amazing. And I really enjoy it. And just even your written content, in addition to your videos, is very powerful, and you're very vulnerable in all of your stuff. So I appreciate you. You are a light in this world.
Oh, thank you so much, Christine. I love you, and I love everything that you're doing. And it's been such an honor being on your show.
Yes. Thank you for being here. And so on that note, you guys know it's hugs and kisses and all of the feels. Remember what? Be her now and take your aligned soul action today. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Aligned Soul podcast. And if you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed recording it for you, please leave a 5-star review. It will help get this podcast out to even more people, and I get to have more fun with you. Also, come join the Aligned Soul Collective, which is my free Facebook group that is growing with a whole bunch of women that love to talk about entertainment, the manifesting, quantum shifting, and all of the things. And remember, never forget to just be her now and take aligned soul action. Bye.